Seeds in schools. We're going to talk about seeds in schools today, and we're fortunate to have two independent school garden educators, and we have one dynamic teacher who works within the school system and works with the community in many different ways. And we're going to be talking about how to go about working with schools, both from the inside and from the outside. So for intros, we're going to start with Neha Shah. She's an educator, school garden coordinator with Ann Arbor Public Schools, farm and school co-chair in AAPS, tri-chair of Slow Food USA School Garden Network. She is an elementary educator and has been teaching in the Ann Arbor Public Schools for 15 years. Neha's particular passions lie in environmental education, school gardening, farm-to-school advocacy. She is a school garden coordinator at Burns Park Elementary School, where she teaches. Neha currently co-chairs the AAPS Farm School Steering Committee, where she supports local procurement efforts. 25 district school gardens and education around locally grown food. She also serves on AAPS Wellness Policy Committee for her district. She also serves as a tri-chair for Slow Food USA School Garden Network. Neha absolutely loves teaching and has a deep passion for environmental education and advocacy. She believes students have exceptional voices and focuses on empowering students as solutionaries. Neha guides their learning by providing students with real and authentic teaching experience that intersect eco-justice, place-based, and community-centered education with the public school curriculum. Neha, can you please describe what AAPS is?
AAPS is Ann Arbor Public Schools in Michigan. Oh. We're in Michigan here.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, great to hear from Michigan.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows, it's pronounced Neha. Just so you know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's fine. You're my East Coaster. I think that's probably why it's coming out in the East Coast accent.
I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it. That's all good.
Okay. You would think. I mean, how long have I known you?
I know that.
Okay. What's that?
Long time.
Yeah. I know. Okay. Next, we have Julie Brunson. Julie Brunson is the Executive Director and Lead Curriculum Developer at Hope Gardens, a nonprofit organization she co-founded. Her vision for Hope Gardens began when she and her family suffered their own food insecurity and realized their garden could be a source of solace and self-sufficiency. Hope Gardens draws on the talents of educators, volunteers, and small business to partner with schools, families, local organizations, and community leaders to reduce hunger and nutritional poverty using school gardens and nature as a classroom. She has extensive experience constructing school and community gardens within West Michigan. Julie and her family reside in Byron Center, Michigan, with 2 cats, 1 dog, 12 chickens, and a duck named Costco. Gosh, gotta love a duck named Costco. I mean, you know, so much more inspirational.
Had to throw that in there.
Than, you know, Daffy. Okay. And then we have Kim Amman is a former public school teacher, is a Slow Food USA governor for Texas, Slow Food USA Garden Network co-chair, Slow Food Dallas-Fort Worth board member, and a program director at Moss Haven Farm, where she holds the title of Farmer Kim, integrating curriculum on a K-6 campus. Kim supports schools in North Texas and across the country in creating sustainable school garden programs, and authored the American Heart Association Teaching Gardens / Whole Kids Foundation Garden Curriculum. Her farming roots run deep from her grandfather, who grew crops in the rich soil of central Ohio. He taught her about the earth, soil, plants, animals, and the beauty of a bite from a vine-ripe tomato. Her garden programs have formed partnerships with the American Heart Association Teaching Garden Program, the United Way of Metropolitan Dallas, the Cooper Institute, Healthy Zone Schools, Texas Master Gardener Association, Whole Kids Foundation, Grow North, Texas, and the Seed Project Foundation. On any given day, you can find Kim in the garden, working side by side with student farmers, teaching them about the land and the food that they eat. She knows she's fortunate to be doing what she loves and looks forward to every day that she can spend digging in the dirt. So welcome all. And what we're going to do today is we're going to talk one-on-one. So for now, I'm going to start with Neha. Okay, there's too much pressure on here.
Don't even worry about it. I'll just.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right. Can you briefly share some guidance about how someone outside the school system can approach a school to work with them, either with a seed program or a garden?
Yeah, so one of the things, if you're a community member or if you're a parent or someone just willing to or wanting to work in school gardens or the school system programs that they have, I would suggest contacting the school district. Generally, the community division of the school district has volunteers and things that they can talk with you about and what their programming is all about. And so you can check to see if they have school gardens in your district too. And if they do, you can contact the school garden coordinator. See if you can volunteer, see if there's any background checks that you need to do so you can work on site, set up a meeting or time to meet with them, take a tour of the spaces that are available, and then set up some volunteer hours. I think it's good to just get to know the community that you're working with and the people that you're working for, or maybe the local school that you're interested in. And so that's kind of a way I would think. And then you can also email the principal of the school. Generally, they are very aware of what the programming is and how to connect you with the correct person. And then other things you can do is maybe set up a seed library for your own school library. All the local schools have libraries, so that might be kind of a fun thing that you could do. You could work with the school garden or administrators and teachers with that, and then families can kind of borrow seeds if they need to, and that might be a fun way to get connected as well, is to just volunteer yourself in the system, and then think about maybe what you can do in terms of helping programming along.
Great. Okay, so you have deep relationships with the communities you work with. Can you share how you go about building them?
Well, yeah, I've been working, I think, in school gardens probably over 10 years now. And one of the ways that I have deepened my relationships with the community is just to volunteer. I volunteered a lot of my time in different organizations. I've spent time in nonprofit organizations that work around community gardens and schools and food. You can sit on a board. That's always helpful to kind of get your way into making relationships that way. For example, I sat on a nonprofit called the Agrarian Adventure. I sat on their board for a number of years and really built relationships with farmers and different stakeholders. And that kind of allows me to be able to tap into those resources if needed, when we need it. And then maybe getting involved with your master rain gardening program or your any master gardening program. Another way is to connect with your downtown home and garden or plant nurseries. There are 4-H garden programs that you can connect with as well. And then volunteering at events like seed swaps or garden work days or farm to school advocacy work like a steering committee, tasting events or seed saving events, things like that. Another thing I've done along the way is really make sure that I'm connecting at my local farmers market and connecting with farmers that way, developing relationships with the farmers who then in turn sometimes are just so generous and will donate seeds to school gardens or plants for that matter. Or you can even, purchase them from them. So for example, I had a connection with a local garlic farmers that we spent a lot of time with, and they actually had a program that they would work and have dietitian students coming out to their farm, and so they would do some of their field placement work with us, and we connected with them that way, and then they donated seed, and we've actually been growing their seed for over 10 years now. We've saved it. We now have that seed in 2 different gardens and my home garden, so we keep saving that seed and moving that along, which is kind of exciting, and donating to others.
Cool. That sounds great. What are some of the benefits and limitations that you see with seeds in schools?
Well, there's a lot of benefits. So I'll start with the benefits. I think the most important benefits are the connections to the curriculum and how you can enhance and enrich the curriculum. You know, we as students study seeds and life cycles of plants and pollinators, and it's good to kind of talk about that seasonality and stewardship and sense of place. And then you just have so many cross-curricular connections, you know, and in social studies, you can really connect it to the historical connection, talking about seed saving and how that's been going on for thousands of years, and how, you know, that connects to the early practices of agriculture and connecting that to today and what we do in our society now. And then you can talk a lot about preserving cultural heritage, and preserving different types of culture, that way with like heirlooms and things that are passed down from generation, and really how that it increases the flavor of food and things like that. You can talk about the promotion of biodiversity and local adaptation. There are tons of math connections with area and perimeter and square footage and story problems and statistics and addition, subtraction, measurement. I mean, it goes on and on and on. You can talk about, you know, money, seed saving as being really an economical practice. And then just science, generally, reading, writing, literacy. There's just so many things, but you can like track characteristics of seeds with germination rates or days to harvest, yield. Data, you can actually do a lot of data collection and analysis with that. And one of the things I'd like to try to do with my students is do more digital tracking. So last year I used a program called Seed Linked. And that's a guided seed trial tool for people to become citizen scientists in their gardens. And that kind of provides a really cool seed collection experience that you can share regional knowledge with others. So it's a neat way to track some of this information. And now we're in the 21st century. So it's great to use the technological skills that kids have and really integrate that into the curriculum. I see there's some limitations. There's always limitations to this work. You know, maybe lack of funding. One of the things we see is turnover with families. So we have like a gung-ho parent that's involved and interested, but they're only there for a short period of time, maybe say at middle school or high school, they transition on. So it's important to think about that sustainability piece of the programming. So you want to sustain your volunteers and kind of think about that. Elementary, you get sometimes parents for 6 years, so it's a little bit, we're luckier in that sense. But there's some liability things too, maybe access during, trying to get into the seed libraries, access during weekend hours or things that the school is closed. And then maybe organization and storage. Storage is generally like probably one of the big limitations I would see is like, where are you gonna store the seeds and how are you gonna keep them and make sure that they're protected and safe?
Sure. Yeah, that's always concerned about storing seeds. Okay, so do you think there's an opportunity for a collaboration between a school and a seed library?
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
if there's a champion to work on both entities?
Of course. I think that we should be doing that, especially if there are school gardens in a school. There's absolutely opportunity there. And even local libraries are great because the districts generally are connected to the like Ann Arbor Public Schools does have connections to so we can work hand in hand with them as well. And there's community centers as well. And then even your Rec and Ed is a good place to seek if they have any availability or programming they would like to do connected to that too. Okay,
that's good because I think that there's room there to you know, because I know with, at least in my experience with a lot of the seed libraries I work with, it's always great to have a champion for that. It's a great bridge for the library to the community. It takes some of the pressure off the library staff. And, because I'm not inside schools, it's hard, it's good to have an answer to that question. So thank you for that. And so we're going to bring Julie on now. So if you leave, I'll bring Julie in and we'll bring you back at the end for some questions and roundtables. Thank you so much. Hi, Julie.
All right, there we go. I think the volume's on, or the microphone's on. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on your wonderful Seed and Schools program here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure having you and learning your story and about what you do with the community. Which thank you very much for doing that. So you're an independent school garden educator. So we're going to look at this from outside the school with you and Kim. How did you get started working with schools?
So actually, we're a nonprofit, a 501c3, and actually the seed of this started actually in my husband when he was a homeless teenager at the age of 17, and trying to figure out where his food was going to come from. And this picture in his heart, it was actually the acronym HOPE, HOPE, helping other people eat. He's like, someday I want to teach people how to grow food so nobody has to be food insecure. And my mom was a single mom of 7, so we had food insecurity as well. And so the seed that was planted, it was buried. After 30 years, came back, and after another place of hopelessness, my husband had a concussion, and his peace was found in the regenerative garden. And through that experience, this was birthed from some painful experiences, and we realized how the impact that teaching people empowering people to be able to have food sovereignty. And so, and it's just a natural transition to go right into schools, because we always worked with children, and that's our future. Those are our future seed savers, our future growers and world leaders that will help solve some of our food issues. And so it just kind of naturally happened. It was a natural transition of where can we teach, and it actually happens to be at our daughter's school. That's how we started, and then we are now in 13 schools in West Michigan.
Oh, that's great. That's great. That's a lot of growth. To use a pun there. How do you approach a school if you want to? I know this is a little bit off script, but okay. How do you approach a school to get started?
Yeah. So like I said, this was like, pun intended, organically happening. It started with our daughter's school, and we also did not I want to say, when this was birthed, we were on assistance. I mean, we were using the food bank, and we also had our own garden we were using. And so we had like nothing. You don't think you have something, but we had something. Somebody actually brought us some organic seeds from a grower. That was like the donation to start something. And so it was just in my heart to do. My husband was not in the position to at that point. He suffering concussion and since then Parkinson's. And so just asking, approaching a school, and they have all this land available. I mean, schools have all this open space, a lot of schools, not all schools. And then the second school actually was where I attended as a child. My mom still lives over there, and I took my daughter to at the playground, and they had an abandoned garden full of weeds, and something touched my heart. And so it was kind of like something pulls at your heart, just move into it. And it's just simple, like ask, and then bring people into the story, allow other people to dream and be part of it, because it's bigger than yourself. There's no way you can do something like this without community. And the people that are in the community, not just out from the community. Like, what do they want?
I love Oh, sorry. I just love the ask part of that because, one of the things that I always say is the answer is always no until you ask the question. And, for myself, when I first started, becoming an activist, I really had to break down that wall about asking people.
Mhm.
And, that was just with myself. But I think sometimes people just don't know where to start.
Mhm.
And just simple part about asking
Yeah, and
is
we have some.
really crucial.
Yeah, we have so much to offer. Everybody does. Everybody has a seed. I mean, it starts simple. Like literally, it was a girl probably in her 20s that wanted to volunteer for us, and she brought these seeds. And at that point, we're like, we actually had nothing, like no money, and but somebody, this girl who believed in this, she was passionate, brought us a bunch of seeds from a local organic grower that has CSA, and it, simple thing. It's a simple thing, that seed. Just do it. You have something beautiful to offer, and people. It's easy to ask because you see the value of what this can do in kids' hearts. More than food. It's a lot more than food. It's about relationships. You're going to get me
That's
choked up, Jeff. I'm getting choked up.
sorry, I didn't mean to
No, I'm just talking about it. Just, yeah.
take you there. Okay, so how do you work seed saving into the work that you do at schools?
I don't know how much time I have, but I have a quick little thing I can share. Do I have?
You have you have a little bit of time here.
Okay. I'm just going to quick share what we are doing right now, because we are remote with our students. So we transitioned, we adapted, just like plants have to, and seeds adapt to remote education. So at this point, we're providing kits, and winter is the perfect time. Fall and winter is the perfect time to save seeds. So we've had probably, I think, 3 different seed lessons over the winter, including saving seeds. There's just so many things obviously that you can share about seed saving, and so we provide a slide deck for the teachers or the staff, because we work with a lot of after-school programs, and this just kind of giving you an example of what our students saw. Some of our kids are in person, some are remote, and so they all get a kit to save seeds. This is some kids from our school garden. So we save seeds, and then they actually become the seed savers. I was going to quick go through. And so then we'll have like videos. This is one of our employees, and videos of how to save the seeds. So we teach the students remotely right now, and they have a kit. They all got a radish. Some got a radish seed. Some got bean seeds. And these are saved from their school gardens. And then, how to separate the seed from the chaff. And then the kids actually save seeds and collect seeds. And then we're getting them back from the students. And now this becomes our community sharing program. The students are actually they are the heroes. They are the seed heroes, because they're the ones that are doing this work, and so that I'll stop sharing a second here. So that is our the way we connect our students to seed saving and seed sharing. They become the ones that are empowering the community to grow food in their home gardens. The end goal is really to empower students and families to grow at home. And because of the pandemic, we weren't able to garden all summer, and we were able to get a United Way COVID relief grant, and we're able to provide 250 deck gardens for our student families, and with seeds or plants that they got to choose, because we think choice is important. Like, we don't say this is what you should have, we want to offer choices. And so we were able to provide home gardens, and then empower them at their home how to grow food. And to us, this is empowering students and families. This is the answer to food insecurity. It has been in our life. We've experienced it.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And one last question here. So do you work with seed libraries in your area? And what do you think of having like an independent liaison? Like if you would have someone, do you think that would be beneficial to both your program and to seed libraries?
That would be very beneficial. So Kent District Library, which is our local library here in Kent County, last year provided 500 seed packets to our, we did distribution like seed starting kits. Besides the deck gardens, we provided seed starting kits for community members. And that was very helpful to have from their seed library. They have a great seed library. And we are hoping the same happens this year, because we definitely know that I have people reaching out like, we want seeds. We don't sell seeds. The kids package them and we give them to the students. And because we package so many, we can give them to other community members.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, the answer would be great though.
Okay. All right, cool. Thank you. Thank you for being so upfront and sharing your story and willing to be so honest about it. That's great. I really do appreciate that. So I'm going to ask you to leave, and we'll bring you back in a few minutes after we get done talking to Kim. And Kim, I'm going to bring you in right now. Hey, Kim.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Great.
I'm glad to hear it. Okay. So, so you're an independent school school garden educator. So if you can just, how did you get into this?
So I was actually a teacher, a special education elementary teacher for 30 years. And I was always the teacher that had the kids outside. No one could ever find me because we'd be reading in the sun or just, doing math outside and getting out from out under the fluorescent lights. So 10 years ago, when I was still a teacher, the parents wanted to start a school garden. And so, my principal just pointed to me and I got engaged in that way. And so, my grandfather was a farmer in Ohio. And so I didn't learn a lot about how-tos, but I learned about the love of gardening and the land and those kinds of things. So that's how I got engaged in the school garden movement. I was the it girl or the only one because they needed to have a teacher on board. So that was me. And so for 3 years I was teaching and operating the garden. And then it just became so wildly popular as an after school program that I decided I was eligible to retire. And then we decided to kick it full time at Moss Haven. And since then, I've started a program called Grow Garden Grow this year. And we have 11 school gardens now, and we work in 3 different school districts. And we're working on teaching schools how to be sustainable and operate a school garden program based on what their community can take care of.
Okay. Well, first of all, and not to get distracted here, but love the stained glass window behind you.
Oh, thank you.
I love stained glass. So if someone wanted to, I know it's a lot of work to do. But just from your point of view, if somebody wanted to become an independent school gardener or independent school garden educator, what advice would you give them?
You can't do it on your own. It takes a whole community effort. There's, the school garden movement in the United States, still the average school garden is like 2 years still. And Edible Schoolyard in California was the first 25 years ago. And, they've been able to be sustainable, but school gardens come and go. They're very easy to start, but the sustainability piece is really important. And so if you wanted to become a school garden educator, doing it on your own doesn't work. There's school garden models where the parents, the PTA, they go, oh, we're going to start a school garden. And they do, and it's beautiful, but the teachers don't use it. Or there's a teacher that starts it, and that teacher gets tired or burned out, or summer happens and weeds grow, and they go, I'm out. And so even if you are this independent school garden educator, you've got to have a community with you. So starting this out, like when I started the Moss Haven Farm, there were myself and 8 parents on board, and everybody had a role in the deal. And then when I branched out to a couple other schools, they had moms via the PTA that were kind of in charge of it. And then they would do committee work. So it still wasn't me by myself. And so we're not in the business of setting up gardening and doing it. We're in the business of being supports to that school, because it needs to be the schools, not somebody else's that comes in. And in my opinion, that's how we're set up, at least. There are some organizations that do come in and do it all and take it over, and it's theirs. But this is more building up of the community to support it however they can support it. Some can just write a check for us to come and do lessons all the time. Some need teacher training. So it's a niche that I've sort of fallen into, and you really can kind of create it how you want to create it now, because there's not a playbook. So
okay.
It's I mean, there's pages, there's hours and days and days of information all over the place on how to do it. But especially in Texas, there's not a lot of people doing it. So you can kind of be, this is how it's done. And then everyone goes, okay. So you can kind of make it how you want to make it. There's different models, but not doing it yourself, you're not sustainable. One person is never sustainable.
Oh, trust me, I understand that. So there's lots of room for innovation here, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Totally.
Okay. So your farm, is it, so do the students come to your farm and that's where you teach them? Is that how that works?
That's one of the places. Yeah, that's the original one that I started with. And we did a farm because the school grounds were actually built on the Moss family's old farmhouse area. The original house is actually still there in Dallas, Texas, which that's the only thing original in that whole area. But it used to be a racehorse farm in the early 1900s. And so we kept that history alive by calling it a farm. And then we just kind of did a farm theme with it. But yes, we have 36 raised beds. We have a farm field that's like a giving garden that all that goes to the North Texas Food Bank. We grow for ourselves, and then we grow for other people. And then we have we have 17 chickens, and we've won the best egg in the state of Texas for the last 3 years. And this school community is upper middle class America. So they have funding actually the school doesn't pay. We had to be a nonprofit. So because school districts, you can't, you can make, we got a Lowe's grant for $5,000, but we had to shop at Home Depot because Lowe's were not an approved vendor. So, and then we couldn't get a place for chicken feed. So we had to kind of go the nonprofit route with that school.
Okay, great.
But the kids come once a week for 30 minutes, and the lessons are connected to their curriculum, and typically it's science based, but there's a lot of history that we teach too.
Okay.
And art.
And how does seeds play into?
Seeds are life, right? Seeds are that's where it all begins. Well, the soil, and I don't know. It's a chicken or egg, seed or soil. It's a hard call, and there's water. But we use seeds all the time for planting. We save seeds. The kids, we eat seeds. We have a history garden that the USDA provided a grant for us, and that's where we plant our slow food plant-a-seed seeds every year, where we get some historically significant seeds that are saved, and the kids learn about those seeds and where they came from. Every seed has a story, and so with those stories, you're not only teaching the process of how a seed grows and the whole life cycle of a plant, but also you're teaching the background, where'd these come from? We've been given seeds that were passed down from like somebody randomly sent us an envelope full of these green bean seeds that their Aunt Mabel from Little Rock, Arkansas had in the 1800s. And, it's been passed down in their family, but that's intriguing to kids. And you go look at the map and you go, they're in school to learn certain objectives, and you've got to have that be the underlying theme of everything, because that's why people go to school, is the learning objectives. But tying it into a story is really compelling. And so, we do creative writing. I'm just a seed, and this is how I grow, and this is what I'm going to do. And so we tie in a lot of that. We did a seed trial with different garlic cloves from around the world. And we figured out, we got them, I think, from Seed Savers, and they were from every continent, all at north, south, east, west. And we planted them, and we actually plotted them on maps to figure out where the ones in Texas, which ones grew best. And you could see geographically, if you look at, the latitude, you can see that the ones that were closer to our latitude grew better in our area, which was a really cool connection.
Okay. So I'm getting a bit of an echo, so let me try and turn this down. Okay, so can I get some of those green beans that someone's Aunt Mabel sent?
Aunt Mabel's, yes, I still have them. Yes, I know. I'll send them.
You're talking to a seed head here. You're talking about one who, so that would be great.
And that's so cool, because you never know, like, you just never know what's going to come your way with school gardens. There's always these random, we got some evergreen fir tree that grows in Texas. We just got an envelope full of those. So lots of interesting stories behind things, for sure.
Okay, one more quick question, then we'll bring Neha and Julie back.
Neha. We're gonna get it. Nay. Don't say the E.
Okay, so you, I know that you're involved in a community seed program. So if you could just share a little bit about that, because that's a wonderful program.
Yeah. So actually, this summer, during COVID and everything, I had to shift gears on what I did, and for a while, we were doing remote things, and then summer came, and I got involved with some City of Dallas group that meets every week to talk about what's happening in the city. And I met the people from the Dallas Seed Library, and then I talked to Jeff about how could we get this going. Like, we have all these excess seeds because the gardens kind of got abandoned, and lots of seeds formed because we didn't harvest. And so Jeff had helped us set up a plan on how to work with our whole community on building this program, where the Dallas Master Gardeners, the Dallas Public Library, the City of Dallas, Grow North Texas, lots of organizations, and all the school gardens have come together. And we have, they're just plastic tub bins around the city at libraries and on my front porch at our school garden, where people can donate their seeds. So I think we got probably about 15 full grocery bags full of seeds this summer that came from all over the place. I know that our city probably has enough cilantro seeds for the entire world, because that was a really big seed deal. But that's been a really cool community project for the kids and for our community. The Master Gardeners have gotten involved, and we all are continue to work towards that. So that's a really great community connector to be involved in, because you just never know what's going to come your way with all these people sharing things. It's kind of the old school farm deal. If you needed a barn raised, everybody chipped in and built one. And saving seeds is a really cool way to build your community in the garden world.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you. So I'm going to ask Neha and
you did it right. Hey, and can I do a plug for the Slow Food USA School Garden Network Plant a Seed campaign is happening right now, and in the chat there's a link to it.
Sure.
They have there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different seeds that you can get, and it's a really cool kit that you can order. And there's lots of educational pieces. We ordered it every year for all our schools.
Great. Okay. Well, that's a good segue, because now that I have 2 of the 3 tri-chairs of the school garden group here. I would like to work that into a brief part of the discussion, and then we can open this up to questions from from the people who are attending today. So, how would someone get involved with school gardens, the Slow Food School Gardens, from the outside, so to speak? Can they just start a garden and become a Slow Food School Garden? How does all that work?
Right. Yes. It's not like a membership or anything, but we have created a map or a database of school gardens that we're trying to figure out, because that is hard to measure, the ones that stay around. But there is a link that I'll find and put in the chat that you can sign up to be part of the official database network. But we do have a Facebook group, Slow Food USA School Garden Network, and it's a Facebook group. And then there's some information on the Slow Food USA website about how to engage in it and how to get involved.
Okay.
And right now we're doing Neha, do you want to talk about the fair and all that? Because that's a way that people.
Yeah, I mean, we offer curriculum, so we have the good, clean, and fair curriculum. The fair we're working on this year, that it didn't include it into the first original planning because of funding, but there is a good and clean curriculum that's out, and now we have a fair curriculum that we're working on, and we're starting to get together and starting the planning process. To speak more about, the social justice piece and the equity piece. And so there's that curriculum that people can utilize, and there are garden kits out there that you can, that are connected to that curriculum. And really getting garden work into the classroom and into the farm to school programming that people are doing. So there's that. And really, there's no official way to get a slow food garden, but what we just recommend is participating in the Arc of Taste program. So maybe planting Arc of Taste varieties, which are endangered seeds or heritage seeds that you can look for through the Slow Food USA website, and start planting those and working with those seeds and talking about those stories and the traditional cultural value of those seeds with students. So that's another way. And then the plant seed kit also with that campaign, and that's all been dropped in the chat. So there's those ways to get involved with slow food. I got involved because I actually met Kim and Cynthia through a school garden conference. So there are a lot of conferences that are going on, but I just was volunteering with them and then got roped into all of the great work that they were doing. And that's really how I got involved. I cannot stress enough to try and volunteer your time, though. Of course, we talk a lot about fair wages. And so making sure that if you are looking for that as a position, we're trying to figure out ways to get funding to really pay people for the work that we're all doing now. So we're working on that curriculum, and hopefully that's just kind of one way that people could get involved if they're interested. But I think just in terms of talking about the programming that exists on a national level and internationally too. And internationally, we are starting to have conversations around slow gardens, which is really exciting too.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So what advice, okay, so I know I've asked this, a couple times about, advice to people for school gardens, but, what kind of, practically, how would I, someone from the outside, get involved with a school garden, but, and make it sustainable? Like, let's just talk about the sustainability of school gardens. So, Kim, we'll start with you. We'll go around and do a round robin about, sustainability, because I know one of the problems that I have with seed libraries is keeping the interest and keeping people involved with it. And I'll excuse me. And once we're done, I'll fill you in on where I'm going with this.
COVID style has been really hard because just the procedures that are in place in Texas, all our schools are open. We, that's a whole nother story, but we have not slowed down, and we're all masked up and doing our thing. But volunteers are hard to get engaged in school gardens right now. We do have work days, and the work days happen on the weekends, and so we have been able to have volunteers. We have pretty big spaces in most of our gardens, so that's been okay. And I guess schools always are in need of funds and materials, and a lot of people will say, "Hey, we've got extra plants," or "Hey, I'm moving from a house to an apartment. Do you want all my shovels?" or whatever. And so reaching out to schools with school gardens and finding out, is there any way that you can help? Can you come out and weed on the weekends or after school, or help with watering? I know there's a group in an area of Dallas that are doing garden warriors and or garden guardians, and the garden guardians are sponsoring a garden with their time and watering, and just doing things like that is very beneficial to school gardens. So reaching out that way is a good way to get engaged.
Okay, Julie.
That's always been a question. One of the first questions is, how is this sustainable? And I really believe that policies need to change. Like, this should just be something all students, all children learn, is how to grow food. And so until that happens, we, kind of like one of you said here, there's no rule book or guidebook on this. And I think, we come from we bring the program to the school. To teachers have so much on their plate right now. To ask them to do another thing is so overwhelming. But if you can bring in like from our perspective, you can bring in something to add enrichment. It's kind of like M-STEM we have here, which is like STEAM program, STEM program. Just like a school has a music teacher come in from the outside, or a gym teacher. This just should be part of what our children learn. Until that happens, this is the predicament we are going to be in, until it just becomes a priority that all schools have a school garden, a garden educator that is, for the school. And so until then, we're reaching to not just coming in for, like, we're bringing this program, but like y'all said, you have to have families, and like what do they want? What do the teachers want? So every school is different. It's not cookie cutter, because every child's different. And so, there's some challenges, but I believe that, big picture, sustainability would mean schools, it has to come up from way up here. Policies have to change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, policy is always key to a lot of things. Neha?
Yeah, so I can just speak to what we kind of have done in our district. And, there are public educators that are interested in this type of work. The key is that it is really connected to the curriculum. And what we have to be doing is talking to our curriculum coordinators. Parents need to put pressure on the district. So in our schools, we had school gardens, and then, so I had built a program for 5 years that I wanted to really model for other school garden programs. And we did do a lot of work around that. But I think because what we did on the Farm to School Collaborative is what we ended up doing is offering grant funding through our Farm to School program. And not a lot of grant funding, but just offering resources. So what we did was we kind of built it from the inside, and had an administrator that is our champion, and that connects us to our food service. So a lot of things that we've done is built programming through them. So we'll have school gardens, but we'll do tastings through the food service. So food service will offer tastings and come out to different buildings and raise awareness that way. Other ways is that, like I've said, we've offered grant funding to our school gardens. Any school garden that wants to start a program, we'll give them money for that if they fill out the grant information and so forth. And so we'll award that. Another thing that we do is we offer workshops for school garden coordinators. And those workshops offer all kinds of resources for them, tools. Sometimes we give giveaways. I mean, I do a ton of just like asking people for free stuff all the time so I can give it away. So I've gone to Home Depot and got 50 buckets for free so I could just pack in stuff. One time Radius Gardens, our tools, we're giving away tons of garden tools. So we secured thousands of dollars of free tools that they just couldn't sell because they were discolored or whatever. So there's just a lot of ways that we have built our programming, but I think it has to be from the school district. And because of the work that we've done with our gardens for so long, it became a priority in our district, and they actually wrote it into the bond. And we asked for $1 billion bond, which included teaching gardens in that bond because of the work that we've been doing for years with teachers and school garden coordinators and administration. And now that is actually part of our infrastructure rebuild. So we will be offering gardens to every school in the district and doing all kinds of different things based on what their needs are, and then offering programming through food service and tastings through food service. But then also we're pushing to integrate it into the curriculum. So we've done teacher training, and we're offering teachers training through our PD to get PD credit actually to attend the trainings to then eventually, I mean, COVID hit and our plans kind of fell through for a minute, but we've done quite a bit of work in just getting it internally in the program, because we know that gardens won't be sustainable if a parent's running it, because families do phase out. Elementary parents, we get a little, like I said before, we get more time with them, but middle school, high school, it's pretty difficult. So another thing that we're looking at is how can we engage our youth, our secondary youth, to then come do peer-to-peer programming, and take those hours as service hours for their credits towards graduation or whatever they need community service hours for. If they're doing extra programming or extra things for their whatever they're trying to get, maybe they need credits for some certain classes and things. And then so just kind of making it part of that curriculum is the goal, because once you integrate it that way, teachers, and you train teachers, then everyone's starting to do it. And it doesn't have to be a big garden. It just can be something related to the curriculum. So for example, last year, I taught science, and I team taught it. And instead of teaching it in the classroom where you could plant things, we just did it in the garden. And so I did 4 rotations of 5th graders in the garden constantly. And it's a lot of work to do that, but I have the skills to do that because I've been doing it for a long time. But I can now teach teachers how to do that, and how to integrate it so that's easier for them to be able to track, plant growth and so forth. So those are the ways that I feel that really it does work. And then, of course, connecting with our community partners like Kim's organization or Julie's organization, and really bringing in people to do things that way, because you can't just do it by yourself, but you do need the community. It takes a village to do this type of work, right? So Eagle Scouts, somebody just said we had Eagle Scouts building us a passive solar greenhouse and a pergola project, and they're great. And Girl Scouts do wonderful projects too. So lots of people can get involved, and the kids too. The kids just really enjoy doing that work, and it's really about them. So making a lot of it student-centered is important.
Okay, great. So just want to get back to one question here, and some resources were provided, excuse me, in the chat, but I just want to see if there's anything additional. Is there a database or schedules for school garden program conferences, local, regional, nationwide, that Neha mentioned?
SGSO is the good one, the School Garden Support Organization.
Mm-hmm.
Whole Kids Foundation has a list of those, schoolgardens.org. And
edible schoolyard too.
Yeah, edible schoolyard. A quick
Great.
Google search. I don't know that there's one specific.
One big one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're down to 2 minutes here, and just wanted to. The reason why I asked this question is excuse me, in the chat with Alphys, and during this whole planning session for the summit, we've been talking about how can we activate youth activism, for to benefit for everyone. And if you look at youth activism, the space that they occupy is climate. And one of the things that Alphys has expressed interest in looking at youth activism is demonstrating to young people the benefit of seeds and farming. So if we've been talking about how do we activate youth with a capital Y, and so I'm just looking, and that's why I was asking about liaison with school gardens and seed libraries. So as this discussion unfolds with Alphys that I'm having with him, I was just curious about whether we can work, having a liaison with with seed libraries and school gardens, and is that even a consideration for something new to think about. So I appreciate your input about that and your ideas about sustainability. Champions are always welcome in projects like this. So that was where I was going with, not only that, but to provide information with, for people who are out there about what sustainability is all about. So we have 1 minute left. I want to thank you all for joining us. Any last quick words of wisdom?
For me, I would just say start. We want to start with the kids when they're young. It's important that they realize how their food system works and how they can use it to benefit their communities. And so when we teach garden education, it really does teach that empathy and understanding of biodiversity. And as they move through that, we want to make sure we close the gap, and that it's in every school. It's in elementary, middle, high school, and beyond, so that we are, intrinsically motivating kids as they move on to then empower themselves as voices for this work, and really to be part of their communities in this way of growing their own food and sustaining their livelihoods that way. So I think that's just something important to think about as we're doing this, because I know parents, they sometimes get burnt out in elementary school and then they don't go on to middle school, but please keep going.
Well, and the littles are the ones who are going to change things. When they wanted cigarette smoking to decline, they taught kids. When they wanted recycling to increase, they taught kids. When they want, healthier communities and healthier land and healthier food, we got to work through the kids. And one of my students that was at our elementary school is now starting a garden project at her high school by herself, and becoming an activist and engaging people in the community to rally around her starting this garden with the other students there, which is amazing. But they got it all through elementary school, and it makes planting that seed when they're little makes all the difference. And that's why we started Snail Kids. So Snail Kids Unite. That's right.
I like to add, in the sustainability conversation, if it only did 1 year, if we only did this for 1 year, that is impactful. And so these gardens that people say, well, how is it sustainable? Those kids that 1 year experience that, getting their hands in the soil that has microorganisms that help them with depression and it touches their life. It really impacts far into the future. So sustainability, there's a lot of different ways to think of that. So to me, one child with one seed is teaching sustainability.
All right, great. So thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.